Okay. So before we get going again, we had a couple of people show up late, Sheldon and the one next to him. So you guys will stand up and let the group know who you are. Sheldon, go ahead.
Sheldon Roberts, got some ideas, obviously, that's why I'm here, that I'm working on, and I'm also a sculptor for a living.
Hi, I'm Megan Roberts, Sheldon's wife and supporter of his inventions, and maybe I'll have some of my own in the future as well.
I think everybody else has introduced themselves. And Sheldon, this is everyone. So you have to network to see Sheldon. Where's my clicker? I'm lost without my clicker. So history and evolution of venture capital. It's been accelerators, incubators, accelerators for a number of years now. There's platforms, and the idea is there's a lot of organizations out there that can help you. You know, RMI, RBC, TechStars, et cetera. There's hundreds of accelerators out there. But choose wisely, because sometimes some of them, they don't want anything. They want to help you. Some of them want 6% of your company. And sometimes that 6% is worth its weight in gold. I mean, that's what TechStars takes, but the networks say, if your idea is a big idea, that 6% is probably very worth it. There's a company that I know here, they were doing some early stage marketing, they were pretty much at the idea stage, but they were talking about what they were doing without revealing too much. They got a call out of the blue from an accelerator in Germany. And they said, we will fly you over here, we will put you up for 6 months, we want you to be in our accelerator, and we'll pay you $5,000 a month. And he goes, yeah, what's the equity hit? And they go, 0.
Whoa.
So, there's another one that was very popular a few years ago. I don't know if it's still in existence, but it was in South America. I can't remember where, what. They basically, same kind of thing, we went down there for 6 months, and as part of your deal, they didn't take any equity, but you were taught from their best people in their high schools, you also had to teach entrepreneurship to their graduate students. So it's kind of a cool cross-cultural thing. So, don't just, if you've got an idea and you think it is global, I mean, you already sell a product, you already get pre-orders outside the country.
Right.
There's money, and there's investors, and there's incubators and accelerators around the world. So that's kind of, that just tells it like it is. Without angels, most startups wouldn't make it. They won't make it to VC, make it to PE, which is private equity or IPO funding. You can see right there the number of deals, 1,927 venture capital deals. This is from 2013, the NVCA yearbook, which is the National Venture Capital Association. Anybody who's looking to do any research, you should know that website. But you can see that angels are the predominance of deals. Look at the little tiny bit of orange. It's been growing, but that's right. Startup seeds mostly angels, and then early stage, a little bit more VCs, and then later it becomes VCs. But it's angels are where it's at for you guys until you get past this round. Go ahead, Gary.
What was it again?
NVCA?
Yeah.
Down there at the bottom, it says 2013 NVCA yearbook, National Venture Capital Association. So you will have many resources, more resources than you can even imagine if you, even if you go to the library and get venture capital for dummies, because it's really not for dummies. It's for pretty smart people that really want to know the process.
It cracks me up. That's such a kind of a marketing come on the books, because they did have one called Advanced Calculus for Dummies. Come on.
So the other series, which I haven't heard much about the other series, though. There was I think For Dummies is a Wiley publication, if I'm not mistaken, one of the big publishers, and then the other was with the Idiot's Guide too.
Yeah, I've seen that.
But you haven't heard many of those lately. So, yes.
I can give you a plug for the book. I bought it, and I thought it was very useful. I've looked at about 10 different books, and Venture Capital for Dummies is very practical, and It's not very expensive, $25-30, so if you're looking for one book, it's a good place to start.
It's very straightforward, it'll lead you to lots and lots of resources, so thank you for that, Gary, I appreciate it. If Peter hasn't signed it, we know we... Yes. Okay,
That's a deal.
so, we've talked about exits, I talked about Purple, the funny joke, yeah. An exit is not an exit of the founders, though, I mean, a lot of times, in fact, sometimes when you get to the point where somebody wants to buy your company, they will get you in a 2 or 3 year, where you're consulting. Make sure you hire the right people to negotiate that contract for you, because, they could throw stuff in there that's really onerous, and your future compensation is based on certain success metrics that may never be, you've got to be careful. If you've built this company, it's your company, know what you're negotiating, don't. You can't really tell your big brother much. We're good friends, my big brother and I, but my big brother went it alone when he sold his company, because he wanted his employees to be taken care of. And they were, for about 6 months. And then he began changing things, because the guy owned the company. So this is a little parody. It's 7, as you can see, it's they just kind of overwrote highly effective startups. That's not really a book, but the idea is begin with the end in mind. And by that, it's like, I'll ask you, Mark, who's going to buy your company in 5 years? Who have you thought about already that's going to buy your company 5 years and 7 years? I mean, you kind of know the market. This was the inspiration for your company came out of wanting to buy a forklift and not having a budget for it, right?
I have it narrowed down to like 3 different companies, because it's what I would consider a door opener to the $40,000 products were a credit card purchase,
Are you in discussions with them yet?
I have 2 offers.
From those companies or from?
From 2 other ones.
Okay.
So,
It's actually really nice to turn down those offers if you know they're not right.
yeah, well, yeah, they're about a third of what they should be.
Well, then,
Yeah.
you can say, you don't have to go home, you just have to leave.
I'm glad that slide is up there, because I had a thought. Does anyone know the story if what I'm saying is true behind Velcro? Was it, or maybe it was Gore-Tex, where something is invented and say, hey, I can own it and operate it and, keep it under wraps for 17 or 20 years and then people can copy it, or I can license the technology if I'm using the right language, and I don't care who makes it, because if I have 100 people using my idea, then I'd rather do it that way. I don't have to sell anything, because it's just whatever you do with it. If you're going to be better
That's going to be
manufacturer.
what
I wouldn't think of it as mutually exclusive. It's like a hybrid. You can do both, and usually the most successful people at licensing have already built the company a bit at first, because the licensees will be a lot more interested if you have a product that's already moving. And the license agreements are totally custom, and it's whether it's exclusive, non-exclusive, and how much involvement you have in them and everything. So they're like franchises. They can be really good or really bad. I mean, you hear stories both sides, because a licensee they have all your inside information. They can be a deadly competitor to you if they go rogue on you, or they can really help you. Or sometimes they'll take someone's product and completely change it, and then there'll be some issues or hassles. So people think when they get a license agreement, they hit nirvana, but not always. Sometimes it can be a real disaster. I usually tell people just keep the term short, see how it works, so you can get out of it if things aren't working right and go to other people. You don't want them to get your product, do changes you don't want, or sit on it and not move it.
Right. So there's always going to be the pro or con.
Yeah.
I like the short duration or...
Well, metrics, I mean, you need to sell 100,000 yards in, a year. I'm making up a number because I don't know, or square, whatever. And if you don't, you're in Brazil, it's, then manufacturing, they're using Gore-Tex in whatever they're manufacturing, and they don't sell it, then you revoke the license. You know, again, you know, when you go international, be cautious, because
It's a matter of, they got your product and a lot of others, and how much focus are they gonna give you? You know, that's important.
So there was a local company that I worked with in '92 when I first started out, Low Alpine Systems, backpacks and cameras, you know, the Low Brothers, you know, skiers, climbers, real world-class climbers. And they came out with, I can't even remember the name of the product now, but it was a Gore-Tex follow-on, and it was gonna be better and stronger and more waterproof and everything. And they just did a really poor job. They brought it to market too early. It didn't actually perform as well. They were trying to, you know, get it out there. And so, again, it's all about, as Roger says, building that market first, building that market carefully, and at the point where, you know, it's selling itself. I mean, Gore-Tex, within a few years after Gore-Tex was out there, it was selling itself. It was, you know, people would just call up and they go, I want your product. I want Gore-Tex in my clothing line. It was not even an issue, so. Did you have a question, Gary? I thought I saw a hand. Okay. Anyone else would continue? All right. But anyway, again, the lesson here is begin with the end in mind. Some people may say, are you crazy? I mean, that's 5 years or 7 years from now. And I'm like, are you crazy? If you don't start to identify them, how can you get to know them? How can you get to know, how can you partner with them? How can you possibly start collaborating with them on some other product? How do you get to know that you really want to work with them or have them acquire you? I was brought into a project in '95, a few years into my consulting practice, and these guys came to me and they said, we're going to be acquired in 3 years. I go, I like your energy. We're going to be acquired in 3 years by Sun, Oracle, or whatever the other big one was now. I'm like, okay, you got my attention, so, well, we want you to tell us who we should be acquired by. Yeah. So you know it's going to, oh yeah, I mean, it's a direct fit. So we started the process. We want you to interview companies that have been acquired by each of them. We want you to talk to companies that turned them down, that they turned down. And it was a very, very interesting 6-month project. And you can be amazed what people tell you when you ask them. So, begin with the end in mind. If you got an idea, you know, again, these people could be future partners, they could actually be investors. You think, well, they're the big company, they'll just create it. No, they won't. Big companies don't create. I mean, you know, they can't, a lot of times they can't get out of their own way. You know, they're big companies, they turn around like tankers. So, basically, beginning with the end in mind is about exit sophistication. You know, are you a lemonade stand or are you Branson? You know, did you really begin with the end in mind? Did you know that, wow, there's only 10 medium-sized equipment manufacturers in the world that would possibly buy this? I've narrowed it down to 3, and these are the ones I'm going to build relationships with. And when you get there, you're going to be able to negotiate, you know, the best dollar. But seek good advice, because sometimes you get a lot more for your buck if you seek good advice. So, an exit isn't what everybody thinks it is. Look at the last one on my list. That is an exit. It's not the one you like. But it is an exit, right? You know, and sometimes it's better to cut to the chase quickly. You're a couple years in and you're like, wow, this just is not going anywhere. And got the second mortgage, and and this and that. So, you know, it's M&A, it's IPO, it's secondary market, which is like over the counter. It's private equity. In private equity, I mean, the only reason a private equity would look at your company if it's, you know, $5 to $10, $15 million company, and they're looking to roll up 5 other companies in your industry, all complementary, bring in economies of scale. So. But basically, investors exit by getting their money back plus the capital gains, because that's why they're investing there. You know, they want a return on their investment, and they want a better return than they can get with even Ally pays only 1%. So venture-backed exits. This is over the 2014, the 10 of 2014 M&A versus IPO. as you can tell, about, on average, 10%, except, that's interesting. Oh, okay, this is a different scale. Except for 2013, 14 world, a lot different. I mean, it was still not, but still 20% and 30, almost 30%, and 28% in 14. But for the most part, M&A is much more common than IPO. And there, as I said, there are times when there are no IPOs or very few IPOs. One thing about venture capital, with angel money and only angel money, you're going to probably exit a lot quicker because you don't need to grow that big. And you'd asked about what's the return. That chart's coming up. I promised you it. But you can see right here, without VCs, you know, you're going to, the standard, I mean, the mean is about, looks at about 4 years, 4.2. And with VCs, it could be up to 12 years. It actually can go that long. I mean, it's because, again, they're looking for substantial returns. I mean, you know, Twitter just went public, didn't it? Or was it a couple of years ago? So this is a really, it's too small, it's kind of hard to read, but basically, if I can describe to you what's going on here, this is the time from when you start your company to when you exit. And as you're going up, the blue part that is on the bottom half, so I do have a pointer here, wait, that's right.
Other side, turn it around.
Okay.
There you go.
So right here, this little blue part right here, so this is the value of the company over time, that goes up. So look at this, here, whatever this is, this could be 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. The value of the company goes D, look at this. In a very short period of time, it goes. And why does it do that? It does that because, you know, just before the exit, you're doing all the right things. You're getting it ready for exit. You're designing the exit for value. You know, you've streamlined the company. You've entered into international markets. You've achieved a number of strategic alliances. Whatever you do, and so sometimes for the investors, that is the most important time. You can grow the company 50% in value in 6 months, right around the time of exit. So timing is everything with exits. Garrett, Mark, your question or?
No, that's,
Yeah. Startup valuation's always based on exits. We've kind of talked that. We saw this slide earlier, and I'm like, we're going to leave this in, and then I looked at it. I'm like, why is this in there? And what's in it? Just look at it. What are they selling there? They're selling flour, right? Pretty much flour. I mean, different kinds of bread, right?
Yeah.
But look at the prices. You know, some are $3.99, some are $2.99, some are 2 for $5. There's one right there that's $5. You know, everything has a value. Value is different. Value is perception of value. Pre-money valuation. This is what I was talking about earlier. So here's some of the things you guys should know. Report. We've got that down. If you want to do some research, you're going to probably get a book. CV Insights, the Angel Resource Institute, Silicon Valley Bank. So those are 4 different places where you'll find some data that can be very helpful to you. Halo Report, CV Insights, Angel Resource Institute, Silicon Valley Bank. And there's a number of other ones out there, but once you start down that path, you'll discover them. There's another one called Pitch Book. But here it is, the median, 2.5 million. I mean, there's some companies in, look at this. Early stage pre-money valuation, that's almost 5 years ago. And for the most part, that was about what they were worth in the middle. This is probably out of Silicon Valley. Now it's 4.5, as I mentioned. And here's a couple of outliers. One was worth 6.5 million, and boy, I hope they didn't last too long. And I'm not sure what kind of funding they could have gotten at that. You asked about how to evaluate a company, Gary, right? Your name tag fell off, so I had to remember. I can't use the cheat sheet anymore. So this is called a venture capital method. I'm not going to go through it, but if you just write that down, but basically it's about the year of investment, it's about your EBITDA, which is your earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. And you basically come up with a price-earning ratio for similar companies. And you go through this calculation. Pretty simple calculation. You're like, wow, my company's worth $3 million. Why? Well, then you go through another method. So this is the scorecard method. These are probably the top three. I'm not sure how many are in here, 3 or 5. But the scorecard method does it differently. You assign certain percentages. So this column right here adds up to 100%. But this is the value you place on it. So this is where team, placing a 200% value on team, opportunity size. This is a big market growing fast. Product technology, it's a great new product, not bad. Competitive environment, we think we're going to do this better. Marketing and sales, we've got a rock star team. Need for additional investment, we don't think we're going to need much. Other factors. And there's weighted percentage, and this one comes up, same company. Last method was 6 million, this comes up 3.35. So you're like, no, that's a big disparity. So you do it over 5 different methods, 6 different methods, come up with an average, or you decide, I can really defend this one, I can defend that one. Really, it's, whatever you decide to value the company at, it's nothing until somebody writes a check. When they write a check, that's what your company's valued at. Well, they write a check and you accept it. Because they can write a check and you can go, wow, I like that, can I rip it up? It's a powerful thing to do. And if you ever get on Shark Tank interview, because it's a fantasy, people want to get on Shark Tank, RBC is about, it's not on these slides, but we actually on a lot of our slides have a picture of a shark with a line through it. In other words, no sharks. Because these guys really are sharks. And if you ever decide to get on Shark Tank, promise me that you will go through the process and then you'll turn them down. Because then you become part of 15 to 20%, maybe even only 10 that have turned them down. There's some folklore there. This is bragging rights to that.
I've had a couple clients that, one tried to get on, other one was invited, and then I got their contracts in terms of use. I mean, it's like your eyes bleed on this thing. It's like 50 pages, and they will own everything. Everything you do, they will own except what you've already got in, say, a patent. They'll own everything else because it's all for their marketing and promotion.
Yeah, that's what it's
They give up a lot.
Even if you pass on the deal, don't you have to give up something just to appear on the show?
Basically, everything, all the content that's generated from you appearing on the show, what happens, everything generated post on the show, they own 100%. And so all you keep is probably what you come into it that you already own, say in a patent or trademark. And that's all you have.
In other words,
So everything around it.
in other words, bring your C idea to them, save your A idea for later, after you get some notoriety for turning them down. Anyway, again, that's just me. All over the place. That is not the end. Well. Okay. I'm clicking ahead. Oh, I do have it. I said I have like 5, I think I have 5 to 7 more slides. I do have the backup.
I'm aiming toward the computer, yes.
I mean, I don't really know
That's weird.
just to get
You right click.
to go. Oh, okay, let's go.
Click things.
That is the last slide. So
Wait.
go back to the end.
Oh, okay.
So, no, let's go there. So let's do, let's just call, you click down here. Where's the,
Here's
okay. Okay, so let's open the other file.
Oh.
Let's just go close that one.
Let's see.
It's gonna be... All right, folks.
It should have at least.
That's where this is going. There it is. Okay, go, which one did you open, the first or the second one?
I think it was.
I think that's what happened, you tried to open one more backup in front, and I will take
Reset the documents. Let's see. Pads. But I don't have an this one at the top?
No, that's, I tried that one. Well, while we're trying to figure out any questions, because, that's it. Okay, slide it over down the bottom.
Okay, let's.
Keep going, we work out the other part. Keep going. Okay, good.
This one? So,
that's where we're at, one more. All right, so that's why so I actually, I copied this 4 times on 2 different disk drives, and then just in case my computer failed, or his computer failed, I have my computer in the car. So, that's another thing is, when you're going to be presenting in front of a large audience, always have backups.
yeah, because you know.
Always have backups. A few were here when I told this story earlier. I was in New York City. It was at the Javits Center. There was probably 1,000, 2,000 people in the room. Big fanfare. This woman comes out, you know, and she goes, so while my team brings up the other computer, I'm going to tell you guys a story. In other words, 2 things. Don't overreact. They don't know, they just know that you're going to bring a computer. And if you look at one of your slides and there's something screwed up on it, don't go, oh my God, that shouldn't be, it's such a screw up. Just ignore it. They might notice it. They might ask later. If they ask later, we'll go, wow, you really pay attention to detail. I would love to have a more detailed conversation with you. Turn a negative into a positive. So, all right. Thank you for,
Sure.
So there we go. Angel returns increase with due diligence. So what this means is do your homework, and there's a good chance you're going to get your money back and some more. I mean, there are passionate angel investors. They invest in their brother, their cousin, their nephew, and a lot of times those things pay off. But if you do your due diligence and you do your homework, the chances of you getting a significant return on investment are greater. That's why RBC is pushing due diligence and pushing it around to a lot of other angel groups throughout the country. And there's probably a few hundred throughout the country.
Are a lot of those VC, I saw a few of those names we mentioned earlier, mutual fund names.
I don't think so.
Are any of these
I don't think any of those were mutual funds. Those were all, best of my knowledge, those were all venture funds of some sort. I don't know, we can go back and look at some point.
what are mutual funds that specialize in venture capital and investments?
If a mutual fund specializes in venture capital, they are being approached by the venture capitalists, and they're being asked for, hey, I'm doing a $50 million fund, would you put 10 million in? Or they're approaching TIA Craft, TIA Craft, big building downtown, their teachers' pensions. Hey guys, you guys have $30 billion, we're gonna throw, 50 million into our VC fund, we're raising 250 million. So VCs raise money from different people, and they'll raise money maybe from mutual funds, maybe from, lots of other different funds.
So the VC, is the exit strategy for a VC fund sometimes to bundle it all and sell it to a mutual fund?
No, VC fund, you basically, you one way or another, you pay. However they exit, they can exit. I'm not an expert in how they will exit, but I wouldn't think that would be a normal exit. They would want to exit their companies, sell their companies off, maybe, keep some of them, roll them into something else, but for the most, IPO some of them, shutter some of them. But no, that doesn't, but I'm not an expert in that. That's more of a, so, Roberto, you laughed at the slide when it came up before, so you're probably familiar with it. So this was about the guy from New Zealand. He had a skeleton in his closet. He knew it. He didn't tell anybody. It's about, but then the couple who didn't tell that they were not married, that they were married. There was a skeleton, but they didn't even know it. It was just disclosure. It's a pretty important detail. Because, what if the marriage goes sour? What if, whatever. Go ahead, Mark.
So like, somebody that has a felony or some kind of, they need to let that be out, right?
So I dealt with a company a couple of years ago where the founder actually, he was young, and it was an unfortunate thing. He was 21 when this thing occurred, and she was 17 in 9 months. And he ended up getting a record because of it. And so what he did was, he presented, whenever an investor would say, okay, so before I start taking in, is there anything that I need to know? And he'd be like, I was charged with a crime 9 years ago. It's going to be expunged next year. But right now, we're still dealing with that, and so I'm going to be upfront about it. It was, I should have been more careful, but, and actually maybe she was a little younger, I don't know what it was, but it was basically underage, and you got a felony for it. So, disclose. The other thing is, wow, I know all these risks. I know that this is possibly going to happen, and I'm not going to tell anybody that. If you don't tell the investor, you know that there are risks. They're going to find them and they're going to go, God, you're stupid. Why don't you tell them there are risks? You know I'm going to find them. Because they're not always the smartest guys in the room, but when you get a bunch of them together, and they're not always the smartest guys in the room. So, so there's, when seven VCs do 50 million each in pet food things, that was a little crazy. But they do surround themselves with bright people, they do the analysis, so, if you have risks, get the skeletons out. If you have something in your background, and, if you have a team member, if a team member has gone bankrupt, hey, I went bankrupt, it was 6 years ago, you let them know. And you let them know that you went bankrupt, it was an unfortunate circumstance. It was called, what was it? Oh, those two guys in New York, the brothers, what was their names? Lehman and, somebody. Corporate cleanup, vesting schedules. So this is for the attorneys, this is for you to discuss with the attorney, but the idea is this. I've heard people say, well, I'm going to give my buddy who helped me start this, 7%, I'm just going to give it to him because he's been a good guy, he's been with me and everything. If you don't have a vesting schedule and you don't actually have, the fact that he or she has to work for 3 years, 4 years to actually get that stock, what incentive do they have to say, I worked really hard that 1 year and I think I'm worth 7%, so go hire a new CFO. Well, I can't because you just took 7% of my company. Well, sorry, you gave me the stock. So in other words, There's all sorts of literature about, probably in the book, you probably read some things about it. I mean, it seems like, well, wait a minute, shouldn't I get this stock right away? No, you have to earn it over time. I mean, founders are different. If you're a founder or co-founder, that's different. There's probably a different set of shares, et cetera, but for the most part, the best
I
thing
can speak to that real quick. Talking about giving stock, what you do is you give phantom stock. Your stock valued at nothing. Company's valued at nothing. If you help me grow the company from my $100,000 investment to $1 million, that's 10 times growth, in these 5 years, great. If you quit at 4 years, 11 months, and 29 days, you get nothing. And if the stock is not at $1 million, you get nothing, so they have to work.
Well, and if you can get somebody to agree to that, and that's good. And I'm not an expert on phantom stock. It all comes down to what you can put together, what's legal, and what you get people to agree to. But the idea is, again, don't just hand out stock willy-nilly. I'm having that discussion with somebody right now, because somebody says, well, I deserve 7%. No, you don't. You deserve 7% of the shares we're issuing. All right, you guys read that already? Just kidding. So this is corporate cleanup. These are things, somebody asked about what's due diligence like, and I was going to be sarcastically say, proctology. They really do, they do really examine everything, but you need to get all your documents in place. For due diligence, I've seen lists up to about 118 items, but about 20 of them are what most companies need to do. So there'll be a lot of items, and you're like, well, I don't have any real estate assets, I don't need to do that, I don't have this. For the most part, there's about 20, 25 things you need to have in a due diligence. You begin to prepare and have in a due diligence box, and your attorney can help you with that, your accountant can help you, or a consultant. But agreements in writing, everything in writing, patents, stock issuance, board minutes, 409 requirements evaluations, all sorts of things. These are the things you want to just, non-disclosure, assignment of inventions. Somebody comes works for you and, they produce something. Who owns that? Do they own it? Do you own it? I mean, if you don't have the right paperwork in place, they might say they own it. I mean, the Winklehouses had a conversation with, Zuckerberg, 2 conversations about something, and that was worth a lot of money to them, because they owned that idea. I had a conversation 3 months ago with a couple of young people who had no clue what their company was worth, and now they're kind of being cagey about working together, and it's like, it's okay, I've got minutes of what we worked on, whether you like it or not. So, I hope it doesn't get to that. Go ahead, Mark.
I think that those 2 brothers got 20 million apiece.
Something like that.
It was like 65 million, but
65 million.
Oh, 20.
but legally, they weren't really owed anything. I think it was just a settlement value, and Facebook had so much money, they just wanted to get rid of them.
Yeah,
Go away.
yeah, it's like, it was.
But like they say, there's no ownership in an idea, so they couldn't really claim ownership. And they had no agreement between them. And,
I think it was just more the hassle. It's like if you,
yeah,
it's like if somebody owes you money, you all of a sudden, on their business, they're trying to raise money, they're gonna say, okay, let me take care of this, could you take away that lien? Because it's not pretty. Anyway, corporate cleanup, just make sure everything's clean. More plan structure, securities, agreements. And I think Peter, I'm not sure if Peter's sitting with these slides available. I can't imagine he wouldn't, but I'll find out. Okay?
what's that?
Peter might make these slides available, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it'd be nice, and I
Yeah.
can send them out on email.
Let me see if he does. So this is part of the presentation. We do Pitch Academy, so I go through this. It's the 12 Ps of preparation when you're putting a pitch together. So first is people, so there's your team. Next is plan. What's it say at T1? At T1, I have some ideas how I'm going to monetize it, hopefully. So it's basically Twitter users versus the world population. In other words, yeah, plan. So a little bit better plan than that, pro forma. For your simple early stage documents, as long, I mean, you should have a 5-year pro forma. That is standard, and you're like, but it's so much smoke and mirrors. The process of putting it together is educational, and you have to think through it and do assumptions. So you should have a pro forma and then a very basic summary for your document.
But when you watch pitches and stuff, I mean, whatever numbers you put up, you gotta be able to support them and justify
Oh, you
them.
gotta be able to defend it.
Yeah, defend them.
Yeah, you're gonna sell 101,000 units in year 5, huh? Well, let me explain, and then you've got the answer to it, you know, and, you know, I mean, you explain that, you know, you're using social media and you're gonna capture this much and prototype, that goes without saying, you know, if you're building something, you need a prototype, a product, you know, you gotta have a product to sell or a service. Promotional strategy, you know, how are you going to get it to market? I mean, there are so many people that build a product and then never think about how I'm going to get it to market, or if the customers want it. We talked about that earlier. Get out there and do potential customer interviews. Sometimes you'll have this great idea, and you'll sit down with somebody who you think's a potential customer, and they will make that idea really great. So, partnerships, talking earlier about, I said to Mark about talking to these people who might acquire them in 5 years. Why not start talking to them now? Talking to them. You know, again, you gotta be cagey, you gotta not reveal everything, but, you know, partnerships can help you with growth. Paying customers. I gotta tell you, trying to raise money before you have any revenue is very difficult, not impossible. It's done all the time. But after you have 5 customers, 10 customers, 20 customers, it gets a lot easier because people have bought into it. You know, they're going, wow, we sold 5 units, you know, 5 units at $6,000 in month 1, and you sold 10 the next month, and then you only sold 12 the next month. Okay, slow down a little bit. Well, it's Christmas. Nobody buys small forklifts, you know, Christmas. It's not your typical under the tree gift, you know, but you know what I'm saying. So, proof, just, you know, can you defend your numbers? Can you defend what you're doing? Are you on track to prove what you're doing? Pitch deck, that's a whole course in Pitch Academy. There's a number of organizations that do it, as well as with us, and, you know, you gotta write a deck. And if you haven't heard this, you hear it for the first time. A 5-minute pitch, actually I'll ask you this question, what's the object of a 5-minute pitch?
Generate interest.
Huh?
Generate interest.
Okay, but what beyond just generating interest?
Second meeting.
A meeting. First meeting.
Yeah, anything subsequent.
It's basically getting the date.
Yeah, getting the date.
It's like dating. I mean, you go out there and in a 5-minute pitch, you tell them enough to wow them, but not enough to make them run out the door scared. You know, I mean, you wouldn't go out and, you're sitting having coffee with somebody you just met. Hi, I'm Steve. I've been divorced 3 times. I have 9 kids. I'm a misogynist. I like to sit in the dark most of the time. You know, kind of you're probably not going to get a second date. So in other words, 5 minutes, wow them. Don't tell them too much. I find that people that come from the technical side, software engineers, technology people, engineers, they want to tell you everything because they love what they're doing so much. The more you tell them, the more options you give them to say, I want this. You want to wow them. You want to wow them. Private placement memorandum. These were all the vogue a few years ago. Some people still do them. These are 50-page documents and say, you will lose your money, you will lose your money, no. Your money's at risk, your money's at risk, your money's at risk. Here's why your money's at risk. Be careful because your money's at risk. And it goes through all of these details. I mean, basically, it's a CYA document. Everybody knows CYA. And, but they still are done in certain circles. What do you think, Roberto? Am I wrong, right?
Sure.
I mean, they're still done. And I mean, I don't see them as much in the early stage, but probably later stage. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
How about you, Roger? Later stage, or have you come across many of them?
Just a couple later stage.
Let's see, Matt, you're the recovering lawyer, right? Or soon to be recovering?
Yeah, this is not my area.
Oh, what's your area?
I'm a recovering bankruptcy attorney, surprisingly.
Oh, okay. And it says the 12 Ps, so Peter actually used to spell this with a P on there, like the pterodactyl, but then he took the P off. But anyway, so the term sheet, and that is basically the document that you get when they're either gonna buy into your company or not.
But you can consider this is just a proposal, right? It's not legally binding,
Which one?
the term sheet.
So a term sheet, is basically used to be the term sheet was, kind of a mysterious document and, again, you go to your attorney for a term sheet. There's standard term sheets out there. There's, ways to, again, seek good counsel, but the best, in general, the best flavor, and this is a quote from Peter, the best flavor of a term sheet is vanilla. Make it boring and simple. Because if you want follow-on investment and you have all sorts of different stuff in there that's kind of protecting the angels, probably going to protect them really well, and the VCs are going to say, yeah, let the angels stay protected, not put money in there. Due diligence, so mentioned that there's a 118-item due diligence list, of which 20 or 25 or something are usually applicable to most companies. Put it in a Dropbox, kind of a locked Dropbox, you might probably get the professional edition.
Yeah.
Or there's actually a new, I think we'll be announcing a partnership with a company that's, they're actually creating
You kind of, you pre-prepare like a due diligence package for your investors so they don't have to research it.
For instance, say that you go out there and you pitch and you just rock it and 9 people wait and 5 people call you later and you're having meetings all over the place and then like, all right, get me your pro forma, get me your this, okay, I want to see your personnel plan, I want to see, all right, we'll get that in about a month. They're going to, anybody heard of the BSO syndrome? Bright, shiny object? So today, that day, when you wowed them in that room, you were the bright, shiny object. A month from now, they've got short attention spans. A month's not that long, but if you take a month I've seen people who take 2 months to get stuff back to investors. They're thinking, they're not thinking that you're very capable. Do as much as you can up front. Be part of the community. That's actually, it's actually at the Wells Fargo building back when they relaunched RBC about 4.5 years ago. Over 125 people in a room. We passed through 100. This is real important. Know who you're pitching to. So it's an example of a guy who was pitching a company and he was pitching in Denver, and he knew that the Denver audience really, these guys were pretty much, they were financial investors. They're looking for a good return on their investment. They're looking for, the typical angel investment. 2 days later, he was up in Boulder pitching the same company. I watched both pitches. It was a different company. He wasn't pitching anything different, except he was pitching to his audience. His audience in Boulder were impact investors. They wanted to do good in the world. They wanted to, they wanted this to have some positive impact. I'm not generalizing that is, Public Boulder is not quite that way. But, and he actually changed his pitch very much. So know who you're pitching to. I know somebody else who's got a product that would do very, very well in the medical space. It's a box, and it will keep an organ, well, it's been just transplanted and better than anything out there. You can also keep pot really nice and moist and clean. Now, don't show the pictures of the pot to the medical group, and don't show the pictures of the heart to the pot group. They don't care. Know your audience. It's kind of interesting. Look into that. So our pitch process, it's a long road. Apply to pitch, get accepted. Pitch Academy, that's about a 5-hour course. It's offered once a month. Make a pitch. and then we go through the process. So we basically facilitate the synopsis to form the people, we identify a lead investor. If no lead investor is identified, RBC may be able to help with that. Investors contacted directly, provide updates, investment go, no go. Quick process, but again, this is over the course of weeks. I'm just going through this quick because it's getting late. I'm tired of hearing my voice, I don't know about you guys. But that's it. Any final questions?
To go through the RBC pitch, don't you have to go through the pitch academy before you're allowed to pitch?
Yes, Pitch Academy is mandatory. I actually witnessed RBC the first couple of years when I got back here in 2009, before there was any formal process. And those couple of years, I would say it was a bad rubber chicken dinner. It was some horrible wannabe company founders pitching to disinterested vendors and a couple of investors who would hide. And so it wasn't a really great event because they just didn't know how to pitch and pitch correctly. And that was one of the first missions, was teaching teaching entrepreneurs how to pitch correctly and do the process. So if there's no other questions, I can let you guys go home.
Yeah.
I'll be here for the